We're now ready to adhere the chipboard covers and create the actual custom cover. You'll notice that this is a little different from the previous Tyvek piece because I recorded this entire sequence, and when I went to playback I found out that my camera actually didn't record the whole sequence. So I had to create a new Tyvek piece. This is what our cover will look like when it's completed. This was the other cover that I made. This is what our cover will look like when it's completed. It'll look just like a regular book cover. And of course I haven't put the signatures into this because this will be a book cover for another journal that I make. So we're ready to adhere the book cover pieces. The first thing I'm going to do is adhere the lightweight spine piece. I'm going to fold in. This is the spine area on this Tyvek, and so I'm going to fold in on those lines. I have already prepared this piece with some score tape, and I'm going to adhere the spine piece to this lightweight spine. For that I use Beacon 3-in-1 or fabric tack thinned with 100% acetone. The proportion I use is 1/3 acetone to 2/3 adhesive, and that gives me the viscosity that I need to comfortably work my paper projects. So I'm going to take this adhesive and I'm just going to put it on the piece with the double stick tape. I'm not taking the I'm not taking the backing off. I want to have some wiggle room. That's one of the beauties of a liquid adhesive. And I'm going to take this, I'm going to wiggle it around a little bit. That kind of spreads it out. I want to be sure that my spine is placed on the Tyvek where I want it to be placed, and it looks pretty good there. And then I'm going to take my brayer and I'm going to spread that adhesive a little bit with my brayer. Again, I want to be sure that it's in place where I want it to be. And then I'm going to lift up a little corner of the Tyvek, and I'm going to pull away the backing from the lightweight chipboard. Press that down, adhere that, and I'm going to go to the other corner. I'm going to lift the corner up a little bit, and I'm going to take the backing off of the score tape. And that will have your spine piece adhered to your Tyvek. Again, that was the lightweight spine piece. You'll notice that I'm paying particular attention to the top, so that everything, if I have something that's directional, will be at the top. The next thing I want to adhere are the front and back cover pieces, and this again is a lightweight chipboard. I'm going to fold, now this is the ease, this is a 3/8 inch ease. I'm going to fold on the ease line. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of my fabric tack on the Tyvek, and I'm going to line my lightweight chipboard up. And again, I have the option, because this is a liquid adhesive, to move it around a little bit. That also kind of spreads that glue. I'm going to be sure that it's where I want it to be. It looks about right. Yes, it does. It looks about right. I'm going to take my brayer. And in this instance, I'm going to just pull back one little corner, and I'm going to take off the backing from the double stick tape just on one side. Now one of your cover pieces is adhered to the spine. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. And I have this handy gadget here. I don't know where I got it, but it's kind of handy for occasions like this. Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. This is your 3/8 inch ease, so I'm folding on this line. And I'm going to get my, and I have already put my double stick tape on my lightweight chipboard. I'm going to go ahead and put my adhesive on my tie-back. I'm going to be sure that I get my chipboard in proper position. And that looks about right. Looks like it's lined up pretty good. I'm going to come in with my brayer, spread that out a bit. Going to lift up the corner just on one end, one side. Take that backing off of the double stick tape. I'm going to double check to be sure that I'm still in position. Yep, that looks good. And I'm going to adhere that edge. So now we have the lightweight front and back covers. The reason I use a lightweight and a heavyweight is I'm going to sandwich this tie-back between the pieces of chipboard, and that aids in making the book sturdier. Okay, so you see I have that. Okay, now I'm going to adhere the two medium weight chipboard pieces to the lightweight pieces for my side covers. And for that I'm going to use Yes Paste. Yes Paste comes in, I buy it in this big container. You can get bigger containers, you get smaller containers, but I find this is the most economical size for me, and I put it in a smaller container so that it has a tendency not to dry out. And a little tip, if you, around the your nozzles and things, if you find that your adhesive is building up, if you use Vaseline and put a little on your finger, and you just run your finger around the edge, that'll keep that from building up, and it'll make your lids easier to take on and off. I just do it like this, and then that makes your lids not adhere to it itself. So for this I have once again I've used the double stick tape on the edges. I'm going to move this to the side. I have a calendar here that I haven't used for this year, so I'm going to put this down. I'm going to get my palette knife with my Yes Paste in my little container, and I'm going to take my palette knife and I'm put Yes Paste on it, spread it out. The reason I like to use Yes Paste on a piece like this is if you're going to do anything to this album, you're going to put additional like Mod Podge or paint. You don't want your papers to bubble. I'm just moving this around, and you have an even coverage all over. It's great coverage, and it's less expensive than using a Xyron machine to get all over coverage. But you see I get complete coverage. If you find that you have too much, you just take the edge of your palette knife. See how easy that moves around? But you just take the edge of your palette knife and scrape off any excess, and then you just put the excess back in here. Now you're wondering why I have this calendar, so I will turn this calendar page so that if I got any mushy glue on this calendar, I turn the page, I adhere it to itself, and I got a fresh page to work with. So I'm going to bring back my cover. I'm going to align this with that cover that I've put on. I'm going to be sure that it's in place. Be sure that it's in place. I'm going to take my brayer. It's where I want it to be. I'm going to take my brayer. I'm going to run my brayer along this on both sides. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to lift this up a little bit, and I'm going to remove the backing from my double stick tape on all 4 of the edges. I do it from a corner and pull 2 at a time. Oh, those 2 edges are stuck. Oopsie, moved around on it. Another good thing about the S-Page is, if something like that happens, you do have time to reposition it and get it where you need it to be, because the S-Paste has a little slower drying time. Okay, now we're good to go. I'm going to come in and see if I can, okay, these are the 2 corners. These are the 2 corners. I'm going to take that stick tape, backing off, you would know that this little piece of backing on that tape would be contrary. Oh, that's on the okay, now I need to take this backing off. Okay, and I'm going to take my brayer just to be sure that's adhered, and thus far my cover is coming along nicely. And again, I didn't get any glue on that, so I'm going to move my cover out of the way, and I'm going to take more Yes Paste and my palette knife and spread my Yes Paste on my cover. And again, you just use your Yes Paste to move it around. You don't want thick coverage, but you want to be sure that everything is covered. Just move that paste to the edges. Then take your excess off, using the edge of your palette knife. Put it back in the container. And I'm going to take this, bring my cover over, and switch this page out, just in case there's any glue in it. Bring my cover over, and then lay this at this point. Be sure it's where I want it to be. Yes, it is. Okay. Just find out. And then I'm going to come in and remove my backing from both sides. I have a double stick tape on the lightweight chipboard, and I forgot to take it off on the other side. I'll go back and do that. Again, I want to be sure that I'm in place. Oops, I screwed it out of place again. And I'm going to remove the backing from this. And be sure that those are evened up. Yes, they are. Then I'm going to go remove the backing on both sides of this. And the backing here. And remove the backing here. And then I'm going to remove the backing here. Sometimes this backing just wants to be stubborn. And I have backing on this one, which I need to remove. And backing on this one, which you need to remove. Okay. Now we're going to go in with our brayer, and we're going to be sure that those edges are sealed. Now I need to go back to the other side and remove the backing from the lightweight chipboard on the other side. And I just pull a corner away, and I get my tool in there. Again, this backing can be pesky. There we go. Pulling that away, and then we're pulling this away. I should have done this when I adhered the medium weight chipboard, but I forgot to. So just kind of coming out. Okay, now we're going to again brayer that, and to be sure that those edges are adhered, and they are. Now before I put on the medium weight chipboard for the spine, I need to make some pilot holes on, so that the pilot holes appear on this side. And so I get, this is a handy dandy piercing mat from Sizzix. So I'm going to come along, and wherever these lines intersect, I'm going to pierce a hole, and that'll give me the pilot holes. And they will be on the lightweight chipboard. And when I get my medium weight chipboard, then I'll be able to transfer those to my medium weight chipboard. And every place that we have an intersect, remember these are the signature lines. And because I have 5 signatures, the center line is a signature line. And I'm piercing every intersect point. This really takes less time when you're just actually doing it than it does in this tutorial. Now the green lines are my intersect lines. The red lines are my center points. So again, I'm just piercing, making a nice piercing hole, because I'm going to be putting my medium weight chipboard on as soon as I get these holes pierced. Okay, now I have all the holes pierced on my signature lines, and I'm ready to adhere my medium weight chipboard. And for these purposes, I'm going to take my beacon product, I'm going to put my beacon product on that. And then I'm going to center this, move it around a little bit, be sure it's where I want it. This is my 3/8 inch ease. Okay. Alright, so then I'm going to come in and I'm going to take the backing off of my score tape. I think I'm just going to do one edge because it moved around on me, and then get that back in place and adhere that one edge, and then go in and take the backing from the remaining edges. And again, you know, when you're doing a tutorial, working backward is not always the easiest thing either. So I'm going to get my piercing tool, and I'm going to take my backing off, and take my backing off. There we go. And then the bottom, I'll take my backing off. And I'm going to use my brayer to be sure that you'll see that my holes are pierced. Alright, now we have all of our chipboard adhered to our Tyvek piece. So I'm going to move this aside for now. And the next thing I want to do is I want to put my cover in place. Now for this particular custom cover, I'm going to have a spine that's covered like this, and then my two side pieces, front and back, are going to be a different paper. So the first thing I want to do is I cut the papers that are going to be adhered to the front and the back. They are 11 by 6 3/4, and I have marked on one side 1 inch and on the top and bottom 1 inch, and I put score tape on the side. It's going to be facing the spine. So for these purposes, I'm going to take my yes paste and I'm going to apply it to my chipboard generously. Again, this is where you want your all over coverage, and it's so easy to get that with the yes paste. I love the viscosity of the yes paste. It's easy to work with. I use it on tiny elements, embellishments and the like, because I can put it down and I can use my palette knife. I can get it on the little tiny parts, and then I pick it up and I scrape away from my whatever I've used, my calendar page. I use catalogs a lot for little pieces. For this I used the calendar because it was a little bigger. Okay, so now I've got that on there. I'm satisfied with that. I'm going to come in. I'm going to turn my calendar page because it's got glue on it. The side does not. So I'm going to put my cover piece down, and I'm going to place it like so. Okay, now I'm going to turn that page, and oops, that has schmutz on it. I turned it the wrong way. This has schmutz on it. Okay, so I turned my calendar pages wrong. This does not have schmutz on it. Okay. So I'm going to do that to the other side. And take my yes paste, spread it on my cover. again, using my palette knife and moving the Yes paste around. I can again take my excess off, put it in my container. I love Yes paste. I use it a lot. Okay. Now I'm going to turn my calendar page. No smuts on that. Put my cover piece down. I'm going to align my chipboard onto my cover paper, and I'm going to close this up because it has schmutz on it. Get calendar page without schmutz. Then I'm going to come in and I'm going to run my brayer over this, and then you remember that I have the score tape, so I'm going to take my handy dandy piercer and take that score tape off. And I'm going to do the same for the other side. Take my piercer and take the back end of that score tape off. And now I'm ready to put on the spine cover piece. This is a piece of cardstock that I wadded up tissue paper. I mixed this medium with some black acrylic paint. You can also use Mod Podge, and then I adhered it to the black cardstock, and that's where kind of the wrinkly look comes in. And then I covered it on top. I put another coat of the mixture of acrylic paint. And now what you want to do is you want to come in and you want to put score tape on this piece. And you want to put the score tape here. On this. And I'm going to use, for this purpose, I'm going to use, in the middle of this, I'm going to put my Yes paste. And in the E's, I'm going to put my beacon adhesive. Now the Yes paste from, I'm going to put a little more here, it looks like that maybe needs a little more. Okay, now I'm going to come in and I'm going to center. Be sure that's centered. Does that look about right? Yes, that looks about right. Pull this back. I'm going to pull off the backing from this. The backing just sometimes does not want to cooperate. Pull that backing up from that. And pull the backing up from this one. Well, when you start getting glue in your fingers, then you're in trouble, aren't you? Pull the backing off of this one. that in. Now I want to deal with the ease area, so I'm going to take my brayer, I'm going to press that down into that ease area. Press that down into the ease area. This is a good way to use. You want to be sure that that is, see how I'm being sure that that is applied to the, securely adhered to the, then I'm going to take my little gadget and I'm going to run my little gadget along this edge. And I'm going to run my gadget along this edge. Alright, and that has that securely adhered. Then I'm going to take my beacon adhesive, I'm going to run a little bit along that, and with a heavy ruler, I'm going to press against that edge. I'm going to take off this backing from this score tape and pressing in, I'm going to adhere that down. Okay, now doing the same thing to the other side. Okay, I'm going to run a little bead of adhesive of fabric tack. I'm going to take the backing off of the score tape and pressing in with my ruler, I'm going to adhere that. Okay. Here's my little gadget. Okay, now it's time. Now it's time to make some more pilot holes, because we have to bring those pilot holes to this area. So I get my handy dandy piercing tool. Okay, I'm going to turn that page because that page has schmutz on it. Turn it to a page that doesn't have schmutz. Okay, take my piercing tool, and every place that there's a pilot hole, I'm going to make another pilot hole. And that'll go through to my cover and my spine backing. And I just come along with my piercing tool and just go through those pilot holes. Now again, if you were going to do the pamphlet stitch, you wouldn't have to make as many pilot holes. You could just make your 3 pilot holes or whatever for your pamphlet stitch on each signature line. But I need all of these because I'm going to be doing the cross stitch, the hand sewn cross stitch binding on my signatures. This is again, it seems time consuming now, but when you're really doing it, it doesn't, you know, I'm trying to talk and I'm blonde, and so it's pretty tough for me to talk and actually perform at the same time. So once you get all these holes pierced, then you're going to turn in the edges of your I've got these all marked. The next thing we're going to do is turn in the edges of our paper for the covers. We're going to put on the inside spine covering. We're going to pierce the holes one more time, and then we're ready to put our... Okay, so that's done. So now we're going to bring in our papers for our covers, and for that I like to use my beacon, and I take my handy dandy gadget and run it along the edge, each edge, because you want to be sure those edges are crisp, and I press in toward the chipboard. I better get this out of the way or I'm going to get some messy on my... I press in toward my chipboard. Because you want that to be nice and crisp. That gives you a nice tailored look. Again, I press in. I'm sure that I have all of those. That kind of works the paper too, so that it's more pliable. Alright, now the other thing we need to do, this is kind of standard, is you cut. You want to leave, if you need a measure, you kind of take if you're going to use a measure, you take the end, or you take a ruler that has some thickness to it, like this is a quilting ruler or whatever, and it's probably 1/8 of an inch thick. I angle it and then I mark. You wouldn't have to do this, you can eyeball this. I just find that this keeps me from making mistakes and cutting these corners too short. Sitting on the side, I draw a line, and that way you can see that when I make my cuts, I have enough here for the corners to be covered. I'm going to cut on those lines.